You race for 23 years, you collect enemies faster than trophies. Kevin Harvick built a reputation on speed, aggression, and a temper that exploded without warning or apology. 1 championship, 60 victories, a career that began by replacing a legend and ended by becoming one himself. But behind the angry outbursts and the post-race confrontations, there were drivers he genuinely could not stand. Men who crossed lines he believed should never be touched, who disrespected the code he fought to protect, who made every race feel like a personal war that never truly ended. At 50 years old, Harvick finally breaks his silence. 5 drivers, 5 grudges the cameras never fully captured. Before we reveal the 5 drivers Kevin Harvick could not stand, we need to understand the pressure he carried from the very beginning, because his career started under circumstances no rookie should ever face. Kevin Harvick was born on December 8, 1975 in Bakersfield, California. Racing was not a family legacy or Southern tradition. It was a California dream built on Truck Series competition and a hunger that pushed him toward the Cup Series faster than most development paths allowed. When he arrived in 2001, it was not through normal channels. He arrived because Dale Earnhardt had died at Daytona, and Richard Childress Racing needed someone to fill the number 3 car immediately. His 3rd career start was at Atlanta. He won. The weight of replacing a 7-time champion disappeared for exactly 1 victory lane celebration before returning heavier than before. Harvick spent the next 2 decades proving he was not just Earnhardt's replacement. He was a champion in his own right. That 2014 championship with Stewart-Haas Racing silenced critics who said his early success was circumstance rather than talent. 60 Cup Series victories across 23 seasons proved his speed was legitimate and sustainable. But statistics never told Kevin Harvick's complete story. His reputation was built on something raw, emotion, unfiltered, explosive, and completely genuine emotion that turned post-race interviews into confrontations and victory lane celebrations into warnings. Harvick never hid what he felt. When drivers crossed him, he said it. When officials made calls he disagreed with, he challenged them publicly. When competitors disrespected him or his team, he made sure they understood the consequences. That honesty made him a fan favorite, but it also made him enemies who never forgot a single angry word. At 50 years old, Kevin Harvick finally names them. Number 5, Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick share something fundamental that guaranteed collision rather than friendship. Both are champions in everything except the patience required to tolerate each other. Hamlin raced with confidence that Harvick interpreted as arrogance. Harvick responded with aggression that Hamlin treated as unnecessary escalation. That combination created friction that never required a single incident to ignite. It was always burning. At Bristol, Hamlin squeezed Harvick entering Turn 1 with a move so deliberate the spotters radioed warnings before the corner even arrived. Harvick saved his position, but the fury was immediate. After the race, his words were direct and cutting. He called Hamlin's racing dirty and completely unnecessary at that point in the season. For Harvick, who rarely sugarcoated frustration, that public criticism meant Hamlin had crossed a permanent line. Then came Phoenix. Hamlin blocked Harvick on the final restart with a commitment that went beyond normal racing. Contact was made. Positions were lost. Harvick climbed from the car with a jaw tight enough that his crew knew not to speak until he decided the silence was over. Hamlin had made racing personal in ways that championship battles never should. Off the track, their personalities clashed constantly. Hamlin was vocal on social media, delivering opinions that Harvick found unnecessarily provocative. Harvick responded in interviews with barely controlled frustration that made every journalist in the room lean forward. The tension was public, mutual, and completely genuine. For Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin represented everything wrong with drivers who talked more than they delivered. a competitor whose mouth created rivalries his championship resume could never quite justify. Number 4. Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth was quiet, methodical, and dangerously patient. That patience is what bothered Kevin Harvick most. Kenseth never retaliated immediately. He waited, he calculated, and when the moment arrived, he struck without warning in ways that shocked everyone watching. At Kansas, Kenseth squeezed Harvick into the wall on a late restart with a move so deliberate it cost Harvick positions in a championship battle. Harvick's frustration was immediate. After the race, his response was uncharacteristically measured, but unmistakably sharp. He called Kenseth's tactics questionable and suggested they would be remembered the next time positions mattered. But the moment that defined everything came at Martinsville in 2015. Kenseth intentionally wrecked Joey Logano under yellow in an act of revenge that shocked the entire sport. Harvick watched from the garage. His reaction was complicated. He respected the boldness, but he despised the recklessness. Kenseth had crossed from competitor into chaos agent, proving that patience was not the same as professionalism. Their personal tension never required dramatic incidents. It existed in smaller moments, the way Kenseth held lines that forced Harvick into uncomfortable positions, the way he made every pass feel calculated rather than instinctive. For a driver who raced on emotion, competing against someone who treated every lap like mathematics was genuinely frustrating. Matt Kenseth earned his place on this list not through one moment, but through years of making Kevin Harvick feel constantly outthought. Number 3. Joey Logano. Joey Logano arrived in Cup racing as a teenager carrying hype that irritated veterans before he completed a single lap. He raced with a fearlessness that Harvick interpreted as recklessness masked by youth. Logano dove into gaps that barely existed. He made contact without apology, and he smiled through controversy as if friction was entertainment rather than genuine consequence. At Fontana, Logano forced Harvick high in traffic, costing him positions Harvick believed he had earned cleanly through better restarts. After the race, Harvick's response was direct and public. He called Logano's racing over-aggressive and suggested maturity would eventually teach him restraint. That public criticism created tension that never fully disappeared. Then came Charlotte. Logano blocked Harvick so aggressively on the backstretch that contact sent both cars sideways at racing speed. Harvick saved it through pure instinct. He climbed from the car and walked directly toward Logano's hauler with a look that told everyone watching exactly where this was heading. The confrontation was brief, heated, and settled absolutely nothing. Off the track, Logano's confidence made things worse. He defended every controversial move in interviews. He never admitted fault publicly. He treated aggressive racing as a virtue rather than something requiring situational judgment. For Harvick, who believed there were right ways and wrong ways to race hard, Logano represented everything wrong with drivers who confused aggression with skill. A competitor whose talent was undeniable, but whose judgment remained perpetually questionable. Number 2. Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick should have respected each other. Elliott was the son of Bill Elliott, one of the most beloved drivers in NASCAR history. Harvick was a champion who understood legacy pressure better than most, but mutual understanding never developed. Instead, their relationship deteriorated into one of the most publicly hostile rivalries of the modern era. At Charlotte in 2022, Harvick hooked Elliott into the wall deliberately, ending his race and his championship hopes in a single moment. Elliott climbed from the wrecked car and delivered a post-race interview so cold it made every journalist in the media center stop typing. He promised Harvick would get it back. And Elliott kept that promise at Phoenix weeks later, intentionally wrecking Harvick under caution, in full view of championship-deciding cameras. The tension between them was personal, in ways most modern rivalries never reached. Harvick believed Elliott's popularity was inherited, rather than earned through results that justified the attention. Elliott believed Harvick's veteran status did not excuse moves that crossed competitive boundaries into deliberately destructive territory. Off the track, their mutual dislike was impossible to hide. They avoided each other at driver meetings. They delivered comments about each other in interviews that barely stayed within acceptable professional boundaries. For Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott represented the most frustrating type of rival, a driver whose talent was legitimate, whose popularity was undeniable, but whose willingness to retaliate proved he was far tougher than his polished reputation suggested. Number 1. Kyle Busch. There was only one driver who truly got under Kevin Harvick's skin more than any other: Kyle Busch. Not because of a single wreck, not because of one championship battle, but because Busch brought something Harvick could never tolerate: talent so extraordinary that it made his arrogance feel almost justified. Almost. Kyle Busch won over 60 Cup Series races, 2 championships in 2015 and 2019, numbers that matched Harvick's own production almost perfectly. But where Harvick raced with controlled aggression, Busch raced with chaos barely contained. He dove into corners with commitments that defied physics. He squeezed cars on exit with zero hesitation, and he talked in interviews as if everyone else was competing for second place. Their rivalry exploded across multiple seasons and multiple tracks. At Darlington, Busch forced Harvick into the wall with contact so deliberate the officials issued penalties immediately. Harvick climbed from the damaged car and confronted Busch on pit road in full view of every camera present. The argument was heated, physical, and resolved absolutely nothing. Then came Charlotte. Busch blocked Harvick on the final restart with an aggression that went beyond racing and crossed into personal territory. After the race, Harvick's words were direct and unforgettable. He called Busch an ass on live television, creating a soundbite that defined their relationship for years. Off the track, Busch's personality made reconciliation impossible. He was unapologetic about his confidence. He defended every controversial move without hesitation. He treated rivals as obstacles rather than equals, worthy of professional courtesy. For Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch was the one driver who made every race feel like a war that extended beyond the track, the competitor whose talent demanded respect, but whose attitude made giving it feel like surrender. Kevin Harvick spent 23 years refusing to hide what he felt. Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch pushed him harder than any championship ever could. They crossed lines, tested patience, and made every race feel like personal combat. At 50 years old, Harvick finally names them. These 5 drivers were not just rivals. They were enemies. Subscribe for more untold racing stories.